Yo, what's up, people? It's Retro. Today I'm going to be talking about my history in Dreadnought from the day that I started right to today. And you may be wondering, why is he using PowerPoint? Why isn't he cutting his videos? Mainly the reason is because I don't care. Okay, so roughly 1.5 years ago, roughly around then, I was a huge .io fan. I played Shell Shockers with my friends all the time, and believe it or not, I was one of the top players in Zombs Royale 3 years ago when it was first released, and I was in the top 100 for solo wins despite the millions of players that play today. But then I got bored of the .io games that I was playing, so I went back to .io Space, and Dreadnought came up. So I was intrigued, so I played it for a while, and back in the day, Dreadnought was way different than it was today. When you see a diamond today, you think, whatever, it's a diamond, sees all the time. But when you saw a diamond back in the day, if your heart didn't skip a beat, you were a sinner. That's literally the only explanation. I didn't start when legacies were craftable or golden shredders were findable, but I did start before ramps were invented, Freeport anchors, before you could deal any damage in Finch. When breaker ammo existed, rest in peace breaker ammo, we loved you dearly, and before trash ammo decayed, and even before thrusters existed. I'm going to guess I started mid-July or so. Even back in the day, I was a parkour guy, and I was the person that invented the light jump. And so the light jump was when you lightly hit the spacebar and successfully reach point A to point B. At the time, everyone, and I mean everyone, thought it was an impossible jump, but I'd nail it first try every time, and everyone would have no idea how. But surprisingly, I did have a dark past in Dreadnought. I was a stealer, and I was a griefer, and I'm not afraid to say it now, because this was a long time ago, right? Right now, I want to be known as the most trusted trader out there. Yeah, that's right, I stole and griefed frequently, and I was good at it too. I was never framed for doing anything, however. I was only still a noob, and I was wondering if this game, I was still going to start playing it. So that's when Handheld Pushers, Missions, and Green Bots were released, and I realized that this game is more fun. They keep adding things frequently, and it was a great update, that update. And I remember going to a ship with like 10 or 15 handheld pushers flying around trying to get to the top, like King of the Hill style. And it was so much fun. I had my own ship called Nova Big Parkour, which at the time was my storage too. 56,000 points. I remember when that was impressive, and realized how, look at the little scroll thing on the right side. That means I was close to the top with only 56,000 points, which is crazy back in the day. Because like when you see a ship with 56,000 points right now, you see like, oh, maybe it's like a little 2x2 miner or something like that. Here's a picture of me having 23 crew on it, which back in the day was crazy to have 23 crew on a ship. Wow, I remember that. And I always remember looking up to Gateway to Turret Shop, which had the most points in the game with just 3 million points, run by Yi, Valor, and Thick Skipper, who was a really good friend of mine and still is. I don't have a picture of Gateway, but I do remember it vividly. And then one day, stationary pushers were released, and then soon after, loaders, which had the most points. And I thought loaders were lame. They just grabbed something and put it somewhere else. But then I realized, like, when I saw the first auto battleship, the Avenger by Avenger and MP, I believe. I got a picture of it here. I didn't know loaders could load Expandos, munitions, or RCs, but now I do when I saw this battleship. And yeah, like when you see this battleship now, you see, oh wow, that ship sucks. This is probably made by some noob in test Dreadnought. But back then, this ship like ruled Sparrow. It was just like domination. That's what it was. And yeah, ruled the streets of Sparrow, it was said. At the time, I was still a griefer, but I still got away with it. I remember when Flux was just released, I stole 3 balls and 12 Flux from someone I don't remember, and I can't believe I got away with it. It was a big ship, a bunch of people were on it, and yeah. If you had Flux right when it came out, you were basically famous. You were well known everywhere, and someone begged me for the Flux, and I kept saying, no man, dude, this is my Flux, this is mine. And then they offered to give me a golden shredder for flux. I obviously agreed to that, and thinking of it now, someone gave me a golden shredder for 12 flux, because that's just so awesome, because today golden shredders are sold for 200 flux or more, and if it's anything less, it's definitely a scam. Right after then, there was a duplication glitch used with like 2 loaders or 3 loaders and an expando box to duplicate your items. I never duplicated anything, but I do remember all of a sudden seeing 10 extra golden shredders in my Nova Big Parkour ship, and being the honest man I was, not really. I ended up giving them all to Works, a player that still plays today. And the reason I gave them away was because I was worried that Cog was going to end up bombing my ship like he did with the rest of the ships that duplicated, yeah. So then one day, just like a noob, I collected every item at the bottom of Freeport. But one day I collected my first legacy, and then some pro that was on, yeah, there was just a legacy that was laying on the bottom of Freeport. That was crazy. And someone was like, "Oh wow, you're so lucky, you got a legacy." And they were a pro player. I knew them well. And guess what I did with that legacy? I thought you could transform legacies to like machine munitions and engineering back and forth from the legacy. And when I clicked the machine, when I transformed the legacy into the machine and realized I couldn't transform it back, I was oh man, I was pretty disappointed. And the pro that watched me transform the legacy claimed that he was crying. That was funny. Dreadnought from there was pretty smooth sailing. I got a storage. I ended up making a storage, not just like a huge, like a little storage in a parkour ship. And yeah, so I made that storage, and yeah, it was smooth sailing from there. Went, created a miner, collected some diamonds, but I didn't really go to missions, surprisingly, and I didn't have a giant collection of flux. But I do remember, I do remember this. I do remember Skysea. I despised Skysea back in the day. He always shot my miner. Literally every run I went on with my miner, he'd shoot me with USS Rogue. I know this is a picture of USS Hades, but I didn't have a picture of USS Rogue. And yeah, they just they shot me, and I just hated the guy. But now it's hilarious to think of it now, because even though he does get a lot of hate, he's a really strong player, and yeah, you have to admit he is a very strong player. And then after that, I met the legendary DKE. Definitely check out his channel, Old Crunk Road. That's hilarious. He ran Frosty Flux, and when I got crew on it, I was so excited, because I never really went to Cannery beforehand, but I could always see his miner always getting the flux every single run. And yeah, my first run I got flux, and that was the first flux I got since the one I traded the golden shredder for. I knew that Frosty Flux was going to make me rich. During December, I took a 2-week vacation up to my family's ranch for Christmas, and when I came back, there were 2 clans called BGI and MM that now existed. And they both had now more points than I did, collectively in 2 weeks, compared to the couple months that I've been playing. I didn't know much about big battles back in the day, but I absolutely remember which was the first one I actually fought in with my Fincher too, like destroying DR's huge 16x16, something like that ship, with like roughly 30 battleships everywhere, and I was there with my Fincher collecting some loaders. I then asked DK if he wanted me to reload Frosty Flux that day, and he just gave me cap for it. For him it wasn't much, but for me that was everything. I got cap on that ship at roughly the start of April, so a couple months back, and then started keeping track of the points on my storage. So on April 1st, 2020, which was like 3 or 4 months back, my storage was at 4 million points, and then at the end of the month I got 7 million points, so I had gained 3 million points in 1 month, which was crazy at the time because I only aimed for 1 million points per month. And then just like the next month, I got to 10 million at the start of June, gained another 3 million points in 1 month, and then I grinded since school was over and gained 4 million points in 1 week at the first week of June. And yeah, people ask me like, Retro, how did you get 6,000 flux? That's crazy. Well, Frosty Flux is the reason that I have that much flux now. And but some people complain about how bad they are and like debate quitting the game. The thing I like about Dreadnought is that there's no game over button. You decide when the game is over. Unlike where like other games you can just respawn, like common.io games like Agario, Slitherio, Shell Shockers, Zom's Royale even. You die and you respawn with nothing, right? So yeah, that's it. And then I remember something at the start of November, so almost a year ago from now, like 8 months back, with my storage, my big parkour. I was over top of a Finch portal, and this was before Freeport anchors existed. This was also during class, and my friend decided to rub his hand all over my keyboard and ended up pressing the letter Q, which sent me my storage, basically my everything in this game, to Finch. And yeah, it sucked. I felt like I lost everything. I had to work that night. I had a job then, and it was hard to get through the night, that's for sure. And it sucks when you think you've lost everything, but for all those people that debate quitting Dreadnought, you gotta rise up. That moment taught me so much, not just about like Dreadnought itself, but in like life too. Those things are gonna hold you down and drag you to the bottom. And I don't want to sound too cheesy, but if you want something so much that something you just want that something so much, nothing should be standing in your way. And yeah, that's my story in Dreadnought. Thanks so much for watching. Definitely leave a comment on what I should do next. And yeah, see you guys next time.